All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Oregairu, Season 1, Episode 6. All right, that last episode, y'all.
Yeah.
That last episode.
That was,
Hachiman.
that was really good.
Yui.
It recontextualized quite a few things. And now, like, all the interactions till now have to be looked at in a different light, from the baking of the cookies and the, who are they for? They're for someone I want to thank. To, I feel like, I can't really, talk when, you and Yukino are talking and why am I going to this club? Well, of course I'm going to this club. It's
Yui is so good because all this is tied within her character development as well, of being more willing to speak her mind, not adjust to the people around her, and give of herself in these actual relationships. So we've seen a lot of cool ways in which she's done that for Yukino. And as things have progressed, a little bit with Hachiman, not as much, because it is awkward still. It's still a thing of where he's
it means
difficult
more
at times. Yeah, exactly.
And now,
so
and like even the whole thing of like the flashbacks that we got with Hachiman to like bad experiences with girls were often in combination with some interaction that was happening with Yui. Right? Where she was being nice, right? And then, he sort of remembered. So it makes sense that all this stuff is happening here because these characters are complicated. But you want
happiness.
I want happiness.
I know.
And there's this part of me that's worried that because Yui's characterization and stuff is getting brought up here, that means she's not gonna get a happy ending because
right. But still, this is a 3-season show. This is the middle to early beginning of the first half of the first season. So we have plenty of time to not only have her change and grow and adjust just in general, but all the other characters as well. But we're focusing on this bit here because it's tied to Hachiman's accident, which has been brought up multiple times, but now we have some interesting information that was brought up in a discussion on Discord. Because of the fact that this is the Blu-ray version we are watching, there was a hair color change that happened, and is a very important one, in the flashback sequence with it has to be Yui walking her dog, because this was Hachiman being super excited about, starting his first day of high school, that he went to school a whole hour early comparatively.
When she was walking her dog.
And then that led to the whole thing there. And then she came over, met her sister. I met Hachiman's sister, and that led to the whole thing there.
God.
But it's kind of interesting that in the Blu-ray version, they're like, oh, no, we know this is Yui, but we don't want the twist to be revealed, too early. But it also kind of just confirms my theory that she changed her hair, at an earlier point, kind of reinforcing a little bit of another thing with her character. I think dyeing your hair doesn't necessarily mean this is a thing with you anyways. Like, a lot of people just dye their hair because it's fun, what have you. But I think with this one here, it might be something to where she was wanting to adjust a little bit from the way things were in junior high, or she wanted to maybe eventually fit in a little bit more with the cliques, or clique.
Tons of reasons that it could have happened.
Exactly.
But that's the situation, and I can't believe, looking back, it feels so obvious, because she was calling him Hiki, right? Like, that's a shorthand, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
Let's get into this next episode.
Let's just jump right into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. All right, this episode, another episode with just dialogue going off. It was really good. We also got the just complete diverting away from the idea of Yui being, no longer a part of the club or something like that. No. Yukino's like, okay, well, if we only need to bring back one person, then we're going for Yui.
Exactly.
That's the way we're going.
And yeah, this episode like really did a lot to make me like Yukino in
her role of what she's in the club, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Because Yukino is a character that I definitely have always found entertaining, right? I love her banter and things like that. But as far as really caring about her as a person beyond, whatever things happened in her past that made her the way she is, like I like how she functions within the group dynamic.
Right. We also know the least about her of the trio, I would say. Yeah. And that's probably why she's the least understandable, I guess, at this point. Because we're getting a drip feed of stuff with regards to her via kind of indirect interactions, via like talking about her family or mentioning the fact that, not mentioning, just seeing her sister and how they interact and stuff in a neutral setting.
Yeah, she also feels like the character that of the main three that is so far the most straightforward. So seeing these extra dimensions when she is not the sort of focus character. Exactly. I really appreciate that because yes, the main conflict here is Yui and Hachiman, right? And that whole thing there, right? But Yukino is also a part of the club, right? She cares a lot about Yui as a friend and everything. So naturally, she doesn't want to see her go. Yeah. I love that. I love watching her go out of her element in order to try and make sure that Yui doesn't leave, asking Hachiman for help and things like that, even though it's something that she doesn't like to do, right? Yeah,
they did get a little bit of the draconian, teacher coming in and being like, are you, no, I don't care if you've lost a will or anything like that. You're staying here. Yeah. Then, the realization of, okay, who are we going to do? Who are we going to go get? And he's like, it's Totsuka, right? It's totally Totsuka. It's Totsuka. And he's like, Yui. And he's like, oh, what? Right. like he had already considered her connection with them basically like figured out maybe in some ways or something. So he was like, oh, well, she could just, come back or something like that. Well, let's go get Sai. Yeah, Sai.
And that's something where I feel like so when I was watching it, I'm like, oh, this feels kind of like a little bit tropey in how they're doing this. Yeah. All right, now let's get the next main character, right? And rope them into the club, and then that will be the official signature or, stamp of approval that they are main character status, right? But then it's no, hold on. Yeah. Whoa. Stop just a minute.
Chotomate.
Yeah, chotomate kudesai, or however it's pronounced. We just lost a member. That can't happen. Yep. So we're going to get the one that we lost, and we're going to bring him back before we even think about bringing in any new members.
Exactly.
So I love it. Yeah. That's something where Yukino's, sort of paladin nature and everything really gets to shine. So
Also, she was very much acting within her role here, but we got to see that other side of her that is valuing and appreciating in her own unique way the connections and friends that she does have because she hasn't had connections and friends for a while. So the fact that she went after Yui makes a lot of sense if you think about it that way. Also, the fact that she leans a bit on, Hachiman in a lot of these cases here because she does like the connection that they have, which we got to talk about because when they went to the mall and everything with Komachi, and she does, like you were saying, the tropey thing, right?
Of like, oh yeah, I'll play matchmaker and set you up, right?
5 hours,
yeah. And I love the sister that's like trying to be the wingman, like for the older brother, like that's hilarious. I love it,
she's wonderful.
Yeah. And it's like, oh yeah, 5 hours, and I'll find my way home, whatever, and take a hint, bro. Like it's great. It's great.
I have to check up her seiyuu because there were some parts where she was going based on her personality, like that little bit of voice acting there. I recognized it in some way, so maybe,
but you can't tell quite where.
Right, maybe it's just a typical sounding, kind of.
Oh, sure, sort of like
style
that
of voice,
kind of voice. That people try and imitate.
But I loved it as well because you could feel the intent energy of like, this area will encapsulate her personality, and it actually helped them a lot because they ended up in areas with fluffy stuff, dog stuff, a bunch of other things in that regard.
For a few reasons. One, fluffy stuff and dogs and things like that. 2, Yui was actually in that area, so good job. Yeah. 3, that was also where she was specifically saying, this is where I will leave you to, have your date.
Exactly.
Right? So
you guys don't want your. You guys don't want, Hachiman, you don't want your Emoto, little sister just hanging out around here during this time here and stuff. She clearly invited me because, she thought it would be maybe a good way to get to know me a little bit more or something like that. But she's like, no, I don't need to be in this equation.
Right,
so,
but it's not just...
Amazing.
It's not just basically guaranteeing that the date happens, essentially, but it's also saying, okay, I'm going to try and make sure that this date goes as well as possible, you know? So stick to this area, right?
Yeah, but I know a lot of people who, when they consider themselves to be the wingman in a situation, they think that means that they need to be involved as much as possible to set up the other person. Yep, and the best thing is just get out of the way.
Yeah, just set it up and move.
And we see a really cool side of Yukino here, and that is that she kind of is trying to figure out a way to... test the waters a little bit with regards to how he responds to being in these dynamics. Because sometimes she feels like she has no idea what she's doing. And I'm like, I buy it. Yeah, she has no idea how to handle these types of situations. It's kind of like how she was when the dog showed up. I don't know if she's allergic or if she's scared of dogs or something like that. But it was just one of those moments where you could clearly tell with the way they animated her face. She's just like, no idea. And then when Hachiman is more bringing up how he feels like he has no idea how to handle these situations, she gives these little tips of like, hey, here's something you can do. Here's something that you totally can do. Oh, wait, no. I mean... Yeah. Clearly, an AC unit would be, more helpful here than you at this point. But there are things that you can do here.
Right. It's
and I would like help with that as well.
Yeah. The balance of her basically realizing that she is in a vulnerable situation and that the only person she really has to turn to is Hachiman because, well, she doesn't really have any other friends since Yui is, potentially leaving, which she definitely doesn't want.
Yep.
And, as we've seen, her relationships with her family are not the best, and we can only assume to what extent that goes.
Yeah, that it's just complicated, and that there's emotions and all kinds of things that are not privy to Hachiman, of course, but it's like it's not even his to know at this point yet, because their relationship dynamic is already so goofy and ridiculous as it is.
Right, but I feel like it's something where she very much appreciates the relationship that she has with both of them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The one with Yui is in danger. The one with Hachiman is based around that whole thing of, hey, I'm a very blunt, sort of prickly kind of person, but we can sort of do that with each other, and then that's how we form our connection, right?
Right.
And it's great fun, it's entertaining, etc. There we go. That's our dynamic. Yeah. But here I'm in a situation where I can't really do that completely because if I did, I wouldn't get the things that I need help with. So I need to sort of be vulnerable, which I'm not comfortable with, but at the same time not be too vulnerable. So I'll still throw in those usual prickly comments, you know.
And thus, in some ways, we get her kind of doing a lot of the tropey things for the sake of, I would say, kind of almost telling the viewer a little bit more of what's going on. So I almost feel like it's a way to kind of set themselves up in situations that we would expect as typical kind of rom-com stuff to go a specific way. But then because of Hachiman's character, he's looking at everything she's saying point blank, straightforward, no layers or hidden meanings of anything, because based on his past experiences with her, that is who she is. So he's not necessarily detecting that this is some new facet to her that is uncomfortable for her. Like it's new. It's something that she hasn't done in a long time. Gone out with someone to go just have time with them on her day off. At least that based on the way she talks about social situations and people in general, that's just something that she doesn't get the opportunity to do. So she ends up saying things in the specific ways that could make it come across to someone that she likes them.
Sure.
Like, would you go out with me? And then they end up at the mall with his sister.
Right.
And then he's like, well, I don't want to go into these shops or whatever. It's like, no, it's okay. You can pretend, you can pretend like you're my boyfriend. And he's like, right. She's straightforward, and she said pretend, and she doesn't lie, so she's seriously meaning pretend, which, yeah, sure, but isn't that a little condescending? And then
Yeah, and
I just love it because it makes sense as to why, if these two end up together at any point in the future, they would have the most slow burn build up to it that is typical of a rom-com where the characters are trying to figure each other out or communicate to each other that they like each other, but their youthful naivete, immaturity, just growing as people makes it tricky for the other person to receive it or for them to share their feelings in general.
Right. It's something where, with these characters and how they're set up, their weaknesses are things that play into the rom-com tropes of having communication take a long time, but at the same time, having their struggles and their weaknesses be things that are compatible with each other.
Yes,
So if anything does happen, it will go well, right? But it won't for the most part, but it won't necessarily go anywhere fast, right? So having Komachi help things along, she's got a good read on the situation.
Exactly. Now,
but then the sister shows up. And this is
the sister, I want to go deep in on this.
I do too, specifically with how the sister relates to Yukino.
Yep.
Because I feel like everything that Yukino was doing here is something where she's going out of her element, right?
Exactly.
She's not used to hanging out at malls with people and things like that. She doesn't know where to look for Yui stuff and those sorts of things. Even with how she dresses, it's very sort of uncharacteristic from what we've seen so far of her. Now, we haven't really seen her outside the school too much, but when she's in the club room, she very much feels like she's in her element, right? She was there by herself before Hachiman showed up just fine. She wasn't like, she didn't have a problem with being there, alone, just sitting with excellent posture in her chair in this empty room, right?
Right.
So here, she puts on all these clothes, and the clothes seem like the kind of things that her sister might have worn when she was her age. Now, maybe I'm reading way too much into this, but this feels like the kind of thing where she's realizing, I am going into territory that I'm not comfortable with, I'm not familiar with, I'm not experienced with, and I have a very good reason to, otherwise I just wouldn't, right? Yeah. So I'm going to do my best to do what I think is the effective or efficient or whatever way of behaving in this environment. Okay, my sister is one of those social butterfly creatures.
Sure.
Cool. Okay, here we go, right? Now, because, and maybe it's the nervousness that she has is more tied to the fact that maybe she is crushing on Hachiman, but I like the idea that it doesn't have to be that. It could be the stuff because of Yui, because of her family, all these other things, and the end result on the surface that we can get still ties into that whole rom-com trope of the, the stoic person that's starting to blush a little bit, and I like you, but I can't say it, right?
Exactly.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be for the usual reasons.
Right,
So I love it.
Yeah. The sister, though, has a very, very specific personality that if Hachiman's analysis of her facade is right, according to, at the very least, Yukino.
It is.
Yeah. Then I have a very specific read I want to bring up on her that goes and expounds on that a little bit.
Okay.
So, the way she interacts with the two of them is very telling. She faces Hachiman the entire time, basically.
Oh, okay.
She does poke the cheek of Yukino a little bit in the beginning, basically to be like, hey, good to see you. Now, I want to bring up something. Poking, in general, is one of those playful kind of things that people who are comfortable just touching other people do in some ways that I actually have a little bit of a problem with. So I'm reading it a little bit too deep in this, and that is that it establishes hierarchy. So remember how Hachiman's whole thing is about there being this meta hierarchy thing that's just going on within social situations here. She basically sat in between the two of them, dominated the entire discussion. The older sibling came in, poked the younger sister basically into the thing of, now I'm going to take this away here. Went then to Hachiman, got really close physically to him, and was doing, I would say, nothing on the surface that was malicious at all in the slightest bit. But the way that Yukino is responding to this is quiet, terse, is like, I do not want to be here. I do not want you to be here.
Right.
This is really aggravating me, but I am stoic. I am in control of myself. I will not be, I will not showcase some element of my imperfections here in that regard. Sorry, what are you wanting to say?
Okay, so one of the things that I was curious about, did she poke Yukino? Because I remember her poking Hachiman a bunch.
Yes, that was the very first thing she did.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
when she sat down, she's like, come on, tell me.
Yeah, okay.
Now, I don't remember if she, based on this here, because the way she sits down,
sort of like poking her shoulder.
Poking her shoulder. Now, it's not the same as poking the face. Right. But you can see the fact that she's uncomfortable here. She recoils a bit from her. Yeah. And she's doing the whole hands in between, like, the legs here of just like, I am feeling defensive and nervous and stuff. And that's because I believe she feels like she has no power in this situation. She doesn't feel like she can navigate the social dynamics that her sister is behaving in this level up here. Hachiman is a little bit more just like, what's the...
Right, he's got that sniff of, there's a bit of what she's doing that kind of stinks, it feels like.
Yeah, but the thing is that once she then starts making essentially the social moves on him of being like, hey, you like me, right? I'm likable. I am going to do things that make you like me.
Oh, yeah, you like my sister, right?
Right, exactly. And I've seen this so many times, and I even have a specific person in mind that I've seen this with. The speed at which, when they don't get the response that they want necessarily, they'll say almost exactly this. Did I do something to make you hate me? And it's basically no, I just met you. How could I hate you right out the gate and stuff like that? That's the typical response in your mind that you get from someone saying this. But if he's right that there is something extra fake about it because Yukino sees her sister in a different way because she's seen more of the truer side of her, this part immediately rubs me the wrong way in some other areas because it shows the ease at which she navigates social situations to where people just all end up liking her. And then Yukino talks so much about how she's perfect and everything like that. And then I love the fact that her line, stop exposing your fetishes to a woman you just met.
Right, when he was like, my ears are sensitive or something, because she was...
whispering into his ear. Yeah, basically. Right. And he's like, you would get sued and you wouldn't have a leg to stand on. And it's kind of this thing of where she's like, oh, wait a minute. I don't have a true understanding necessarily of what's going on here. I need to reevaluate and readjust. And then she goes with the yeah, funny, slapping him and stuff like that. And then then she's like, okay, we're done here, then we're leaving if we are. And I love how she also misinterprets the she's amazing thing with that. And then once he reveals what he meant, she's like...
She smiles but turned away.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Now, one of the things I'm curious about... So, I'm hesitant to say this because this is the response of the main character's observations after the immediate presentation of her sister, right? And then also something that Yukino basically confirms after the sister is left, right? So in since Yukino knows her sister way more than Hachiman does, way more than the audience does, that is the kind of thing where I want to give more weight to her opinion.
Definitely. Yep.
However, one of the things that I think is kind of interesting here is that this is something that plays into both of their biases. Because with Hachiman, we've just been dealing with a bunch of things where when he sees someone that's really nice or things like that, he immediately starts to think of ulterior motives, right?
Right.
because that's how he has to justify it in some way, or at the very least, it's just something that bothers him, right? So he doesn't like it.
Yep.
In Yukino's case, all of her weaknesses are her sister's strengths.
Yes.
I could see it being something where, especially since they brought up the whole idea of her being perfect, and the fact that Yukino, that's something that, everyone says that about her, and that bothered her, right?
Right.
I could see it being something where she's the one that was able to just do all the social stuff. She's the social butterfly and everything, and it works out just perfectly. And maybe the reason that there's the bad connection in the relationship doesn't necessarily, it could totally be something where the sister actually has like a bunch underneath the surface that's a lot, uglier basically. And that's why there's the bad relationship there.
Totally.
And it could also be both.
It could be both.
But I could definitely see it being something where Yukino is basically getting confirmation from someone with a similar bias that, I'm in the right here.
That is possible.
Because I could totally see it being something where her own insecurities that we've seen in this episode before now around these topics, all of a sudden it's that's right, I don't have to worry about those, because in actuality, because I am the paladin, I am the one that is righteous, essentially.
Yes.
And my sister, underneath, she's not what everyone thinks she is.
And all it takes really is a couple things that she's holding on to that are things that she's misinterpreted over the years or what have you. And she just basically holds those over her sister's head. But because Yukino is the kind of person that sometimes just
holds grudges, doesn't forget, or
holds grudges, and also could just label someone specifically as not in line with her ideals and stuff, that she doesn't ever confront or communicate with them.
Exactly.
She has a problem with their things of doing that with them because she doesn't necessarily have a relationship with them.
Right. To quote another romance, it is not easy for me to forgive the follies and vices of others or their offenses against me. My good opinion, once lost, is lost forever.
Totally.
Right? So, it could totally be something where the good opinion was lost for good reason, right?
Totally.
Who knows, right?
But who knows? That might have been 10 years ago.
Yeah,
it might have been
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Where she's not thinking of it right now because, I got the feeling that she was definitely aware of the awkward dynamic, basically, between her and Yukino.
Right.
And maybe this is just because her veneer is really good. It could totally be that.
Sure.
But I didn't sense any seemingly hostility towards Yukino.
No. It's that Yukino has hostility towards her.
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah. So
nothing of what she was doing there was, I believe, malicious. My point was that with whatever way it was going with this is the air of someone who is so adept at social situations that she navigates out of any of the potential problems that could come about by being too much in other people's spaces and too controlling of the social dynamic, because she makes it so much more enjoyable for the people that are involved in it. And yet, these two people are in some ways her perfect foil in that regard, because they are the ones that are going to almost immediately turn up their nose at this kind of behavior, because like you said, there is definitely the potential for some huge confirmation bias, warped perspective based around it being something that they see as entirely fake. Okay, then we get the classic, chance encounter, miscommunication, that she bumps into them, sees them together, and she thinks they're dating. And this miscommunication continues all the way into the club room. It's so painful to feel like there was a possibility that they would separate again with her believing this miscommunicated setup, basically. Right. And I'm so glad they didn't do that.
I am so glad. But I love that they did it, right?
So that they didn't end it that way.
Yes,
that's what I'm talking about.
Right. I'm super glad they didn't end it that way.
Exactly.
But I'm really glad that they had it happen up till that point.
Oh, sure.
Because beyond just the whole idea of sort of playing to the trope of the miscommunication and seeing something and then thinking things as a result of that, right?
And they say things that even keep the miscommunication going.
It totally works with all of the characters involved, because with Yukino, she is so matter-of-fact and direct that she won't necessarily read into what Yui is actually interpreting this as, right? With Yui, she is absolutely the kind of person, and in the particular emotional state at this point in time to jump to those kinds of conclusions, right? So, they were even pretending to be boyfriend and girlfriend, even though that was not like stated to Yui. She could see those kinds of things happening. The fact that Yukino was apparently scared of the dog or something and got a lot closer to Hachiman. That's something where she could see that. It's like, usually they stay a lot farther apart, but their shoulders are practically touching there, right?
Yeah, he was like, they're really close,
So it's natural that all of this would happen, and it's something that would make for good comedy, which I love miscommunication humor, if not for the fact that the emotions were so tangled up in what's happening that you're like, no, please don't let this happen. But then it's like, no, you don't have to worry. If we ever bring up a trope or something like that, we're always going to, poke at it, do it with a twist or whatever. So if you thought this was going to lead to melodrama where all of a sudden there would be this miscommunication, they would create this, multi-episode arc of, oh God, they're dating, so as a result, I can't actually properly talk about what happened. No.
Shit.
That's not going to happen, right? So we have this confrontation. It's great. There's still the miscommunication happening. And then Hachiman's just like, oh, wait, I see what's going on here. Hold on.
I can sense that
they're talking about two different things. Okay, let me clear this up.
Yeah, this is where I really loved that it fell back essentially on one of the strengths of Hachiman, and that is that he observes a lot.
Yes.
But not only is he observant, he is confident in his observations.
Right, so he acts on them.
And he also is wrong a lot of the times. So, therefore, most of the time when he's right, I would say, for the most part, and he does end up acting upon them, it gets rid of so much potential melodrama, like right out the gate, because either he puts his foot a little bit in his mouth with, something that maybe other characters interpret as mostly well-intentioned, unless they're Yukino and then want to rib on him a little bit for it.
Sure, like the moment when he tried to stand up for Yui in the class, and it's just like,
right, because he was totally understanding kind of the dynamic that was going there. Right. So here he understands that. He's like, no, not in my romantic comedy.
Exactly.
He's like, I'm the main character, damn it, and this is not the way I want things to go. Right. So he solves that. It's wonderful. It makes sense for all of them. And then Yui just like, right. Oh my God. And I felt so good for her that she got that release of, oh my God. Okay. It makes so much more sense
humor,
now.
And then also being able to get that good emotional resolution because now
catharsis.
They're talking. Very cathartic because now they're talking on the same page.
Yep.
And then we go into the next step where it's how are we going to move forward past this?
Exactly.
And I love how it's resolved because what Hachiman does is something that in a lot of ways, like, him saying like, hey, I got you this present and now we're even.
Yeah.
From Yui's perspective, it's totally unnecessary, right?
Right.
But from Hachiman's perspective, it's not. Because even if that was something where she wasn't actually taking pity on him or anything like that, she was actually just genuinely wanting to interact, because of his own past experiences and past trauma,
exactly,
he can't get it out of his head.
Exactly.
So he's going to treat it as if that's the case and then balance the books, right? So that way...
She has no reason to be nice to me.
Right, she has no reason to be nice to me. Yep. You don't owe me anything. And it's I never felt I did. No. You don't owe me anything. It's all good. We can all just... go back to being we can behave as normal people now.
That's what he wanted from the beginning.
Right, that's what he wanted.
And he thought that was done.
Which means that he's basically telling her it's because even when she insists that wasn't it, it's either a thing of, I don't believe you, so there you go.
Right, or you're still being nice to me.
Right, or it's, bear with me, I need to do it this way.
Sure.
Right.
Either way, regardless of how self-aware he would be in order to do that, the fact that he pushes it so much to be this way shows shows to someone who might be more mature in general. I don't know how observant the other two characters are with regards to this. I would say Yukino might specifically have gotten what's going on, but he was being vulnerable with this.
Yes.
This is an element of what it looks like when Hachiman is vulnerable. He kind of stammers around the point. It's kind of like in a video game when you strafe around a boss constantly trying to find a weak point.
Because it's hit you before and you know it does a lot of damage.
Exactly. So you're you're kind of like peppering it with ranged attacks from really far away, because you know if you get into that circle diameter from it,
hurt.
It's gonna hurt. So he is being extremely safe with himself in the way that he understands. But she basically just sees him doing like really complex movements and stuff, and she's like, I'm confused. This just made things way more complicated than I thought it needed to be, and I thought it was really simple. And I love what Yukino does next to kind of simplify things.
And because what Hachiman was basically doing is he's saying, hey, if this is the way that you are normally, that's fine. You don't have to change anything, and moving forward, I'll be able to accept it for what it is. You know?
Yeah.
And then
Yukino translates.
Yukino translate.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you see the parallels of what they're doing here now that this episode is finished? Because Yukino went on a little bit of a journey of vulnerability as well this episode. The fact that she's now basically doing... Well, essentially.
She's being wingman.
She's being the wingman. Exactly. Yeah. She's being Komachi here.
Right.
And basically seeing, see, you guys are both victims in this case of, well, your own baka-ness in a lot of ways. But also the way in which you're deciding to do things here, the way this is going, this is a good way. This is good. And this is not an end or anything like this.
Or the end isn't a bad thing, because that just means you get to start over fresh.
Exactly. And both of you wanted this in your own different ways. Because, well, you both felt like you owed the other person something. But that's not how life is. That's not how relationships work. You can just live and care and enjoy each other's company and acknowledge that we've done things for each other, but like there's no fault, there's no like the way she basically brought the idea of I think someone said it, who said that there was like some kind of potential like instigator or something like that, but then she's like, no, like even if one of you saved the other, but in reality you're both victims, then you should put some blame on the instigator. Neither of you are at fault, so this fight is pointless. It's kind of like saying, there's the potential issue of there being all this conflict and stuff. Put the blame on that ethereal instigator of the whole thing.
Well,
rather than...
Sure.
Are you thinking she was saying put the blame on me?
Maybe, almost. Because I don't know how she would necessarily see herself as the instigator.
Yeah, that'd be such a way to tie into her flaw, maybe, of just feeling like she's so good that she accidentally orchestrated all of this. But
that she's sort of responsible for everything and all that. Like, and who knows, right? And
I really don't want to focus on that in my head. It just hurts my brain if that's like really where her head is at.
Because I feel like she is such a, and I use this as shorthand, but she's such a paladin type character, right? That if she feels like she has done some wrong because they were brought together sort of in the club that she was originally sort of heading up,
that was
and then this kind of stuff happened, right? She also wants to make things right on her account and balance her books.
Right. She chose that they go after Yui rather than Totsuka or Sai, however you want to call them. But
so
then she leaves the room, which might be the I am going to remove myself as the instigator of anything and let whatever happens happen.
Right.
I'm going to trust you guys, and I see now that's just something that'd be better for me to do rather than control this anymore.
Well, and also I'm going to do the self-sacrificial thing.
True. Yeah.
If I had a part to play in this, then okay, I've now balanced my books, right? Yeah. And even if it's not something that you guys necessarily care about, or we're necessarily even following the implication that she might be the instigator, assuming I'm right and that's what she was sort of implying herself, well, that's fine, because within my own heart and mind, I've taken care of it. So I don't need to worry about it anymore.
And God, it's just these characters are so good. And that's just all the stuff that is just right before we get this hilarious little bit of comedy. And she's like, "Does it look good on me?" The line that Yukino gave with the the apron and stuff
that she ended up getting for herself, by the way.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. We noticed that. But then the fact that she puts the dog collar on, and it's a tight, like a choker practically. And then he's like, yeah, that's a dog collar, And the way she just kind of like,
but you know what I love about this though?
What?
Other than just the comedy of, okay, she put on a dog collar and everything, and now she knows, and embarrassment. She really liked it. Not just, she also liked the fact that he gave her something, right? So,
she had the little blush on.
Yeah, she had the little blush and everything, but he picked out the perfect dog collar for her dog because she liked it so much that it was the kind of thing that she would have gladly worn as a choker because she was like, this is really cute. Does it look good on me? I hope you think so because I love it. Right?
Yeah.
And then it's it's a dog collar, and it's oh my God, what did I just do? I just do?
I also think it's one of those things of where part of her character is being a little bit of the airhead, and that she didn't necessarily look at the clasp necessarily or anything. And it's so cute in the way that it is that it's something where she's like, oh, if I put it on, I can ask him how it looks on me, because how does this look on me is kind of the tropey, tell me I'm beautiful.
Right. Well,
so I
value your opinion in this particular area.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But then the little observation he has at the end here as well.
Yukino left her books.
Yep.
Yukino is a very level-headed, calm person.
Yep.
Why would she possibly forget her books unless somehow she was distracted or emotionally compromised in some way to make her not realize it? Because that's really not the kind of thing she would do. Oh, wait, was there something about this situation that actually was, getting to her on some level? I wonder what it could have been.
I'll bet you anything that in his head here, he goes, that's weird. Huh.
Right.
And just has not the slightest clue, because I don't think he should. I don't think he should know exactly why she did this, of course. But I'll bet that this is one of those things where he, in the moment, is probably like, this is legitimately strange. And then a day later, he's forgotten about it.
Well, and what I love about this...
That's what I would do, probably.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
And what I love about this is it's something where Hachiman as a character is very observant, right?
Yes.
But there are certain points, specifically regarding relationships and stuff, where he completely misses things. And there's good reason for that.
Very good reason.
Because it's not necessarily that he doesn't see the connection, but that he's been burned before by making the connection when it wasn't there.
Exactly.
So he ignores the signs when he sees them, and it's so subconscious and instinctual that he doesn't even think about it, which is a great way to, again, play into the trope of the thick-headed anime protagonist. And it's so uncharacteristic of them.
Oh, so
they're a perfectly functioning, able to make conclusions human being. But when it comes into this regard, they can't. Well, no. There's reasons specifically for Hachiman of why that happens. So something like this can happen.
This is
This is episode 6.
This is episode 6.
I know.
This
I love
show
it.
is so good.
God, I love this show. It's so, and because one of the things that I really love, when romance stories can do this, especially if it involves any kind of love triangle, is that I want to really be rooting for both sides, and not necessarily both sides to win in some sort of threesome or whatever, but the idea that I want all of the characters to have their happy ending, right? However it ends up happening, whether it's with the lead or not, right? And usually, of course, there's the whole idea of, but how could they be happy unless they win the love battle royale, right? But so I love how this episode, and just all the episodes really up till now have been balancing the focus on all of the three main characters, so that we're seeing them all grow sort of simultaneously. I love it.
But that's the episode, y'all. Episode 6. Holy crap. Y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general. Also, be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
Indeed. The info is in the description, but we stream Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Mondays podcast, Tuesdays One Piece manga readings, Wednesday and Friday Caleb does gaming.
I'm playing Hades right now.
And Thursday I'm playing and Persona 4 Golden.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.